When I first started this channel, I mentioned that not only do I like war games, but I also like role-playing games. I've been a role player for, gosh, I had the one of the original basic sets, basic editions of Dungeons and Dragons with the first set of dice, and wished I still had that set, but I don't. It's lost to time, but it is gone. But the reason I mention this is not going to be a role-playing game video. But what I did find, and I was watching, it's a site called Geek Gamers, and this really is a wonderful website for solitaire role playing games. And I don't know the lady's name. I don't think she's ever mentioned it in any of the videos I've ever watched, but she has a fantastic channel, and I'll post a link. Wait, where's my hand? I'll post a link down below to Geek Gamers so that if you've never visited that site and you have any interest in solitaire role playing, it's an awesome site. But I was on that site watching a video, and she had actually was doing a kind of an overview of a game from this company. This is Dark City Games, and so she was looking at, it was a I won't say a choose your own adventure type game. It was I think they have a name for it, a programmed. I think it's a programmed adventure. So it's kind of a hybrid between what might have been what used to be the old choose your own adventure things. But the thing about Dark City Games is they've kind of made a hybrid of that with a solitaire RPG module, and it's interesting because in their games that they release, you actually create a character. So you'll actually roll up a character when you go through the adventure. And I have not tried one yet. I hope to. I did purchase one along with this game. I hope to try one. It does look interesting, and so we'll see. But that's what led me to here and now. So when I went to Dark City Games and I was looking at their website to look at these planned adventures that they sell, I noticed they had some other games, and there was a Western that looked interesting. Probably if I have, I might go back and have to grab that one. I don't know. But I noticed they had this Guadalcanal, a combat boots game. And I'm a Pacific junkie. I love the Pacific War stuff. And I saw this and I thought, I've never heard of Dark City Games. I'm always willing to try new games, especially if they're in the Pacific. And this one was priced at $12.95, so not a bad deal. I thought, not much to lose if it's a horrible game. So I bought it. It's arrived, and I just wanted to first take a quick look at what you get for $12.95, and then I'll do a small playthrough. I won't do a complete playthrough, but I'll do a couple of turns to show you what to expect from this game. I don't know what to expect from this game because, like I said, I have not played this yet. So let's take a look inside, see what we get for our $12.95. So first things first, I'll set this aside for now. You get the rule book, and we can look and see the game concept and design is George Dew and Chris Chambers. Like I said, I'm not familiar with these guys or this company, but just wanted to mention the designers. So this is it's a small rule book. It's laid out well. I've looked at this once before. It is laid out in good order. It has the game sequence, has your terrain, your entry costs, and cover if you're in certain amounts of terrains. Do a really good job of giving you examples of play in this, so that when they're explaining what line of sight is, or when they're explaining how to move, there are some really good examples of what you do to do that, and some counter information. So you have firepower, survivability, weapons types, discipline. I've never encountered a game quite like this. It's interesting in that the way that the firepower and survivability works. You roll dice. This is the number of dice you would roll, and you're comparing what you roll against what the defender would roll. But like I said, we'll get into that when I actually do a quick little playthrough of this. But back to the manual, it is laid out well. You have elevations, and again, you have examples of which units can see each other with the elevations. Firing rules, line of sight, the cover, stacked units. There's a good number of rules in here for such a small game. There are definitely rules that are needed in a game like this, in a war game like this. And then there's some more examples. Close combat, hand to hand. We have artillery, so you can have artillery strikes in this game. You can even have airstrikes. You can even have dogfights. So there's the possibility of having aircraft fight each other in the game, which is surprised me. Like I said, it was such a small game that you would have something like this, and there's interesting rules for your maneuvering options and what the attacker wants to do, what the defender wants to do, and it tells you how to go through and resolve that. And then, so basically, that's the 10 pages. The first 10 pages are the rules. So again, it's a very brief. It's not a full size rule book. It's a smaller rule book. So in a regular sized rule book, there'd probably be half as many pages, but it's just enough information to get you to play a scenario in this. And then you have these scenarios, and this of course is Guadalcanal, and the scenarios are lined up in chronological order, so you can play through these in order. And there's I'm not sure exactly how many scenarios. There's several though, and each scenario will give you the objectives, the orders of battles, and there's also a lot of history tied to this scenario. So they'll explain what was going on and what's happening in the scenario. So that's really cool. I like that a lot because like I said, I am a Pacific War fan. There's a glossary of terms they use, and then designer's notes, which I did read in entirety. I always do that with these rule books. What the designer is thinking is, you really want that mindset when you go into a game. It explains a lot of what the designer had in mind and what they were trying to replicate. There's very good designer notes here, and it really made me feel good to read it because you can really get a feel for just how interested in World War II Pacific that the designer is, and what his intent was with actually making this game. There's even, I think he quotes some source materials that he referenced, or books he's read, movies he's watched, and that's always good. So a lot of love for the Pacific on the designer's part, which is always a good thing. So this is the rule book. Like I said, I've never heard of Dark City Games. Thought I would give this a try, and we are certainly going to get this to the table. And we'll look at what else we got with this. This is your counter sheet. So it is. They are not. Let's see if I can get a little closer here. These are not pre-cut. You're going to have to cut them yourself. It's the cardboard stock is decent enough for counters. So if you cut these out, you're going to have pretty decent counters. Not a lot of counters. You can see we talked about you do get aircraft. So there are aircraft counters. There's mortars, machine guns, and your Japanese and your American forces, the Marines. The Japanese and the Marines. So it's single-sided, not double-sided, but that's all you really need for a game this size. Not, like I said, it's not a detailed game. You're not playing lock and load Heroes of the Pacific here. That's not the intent of this game. And this is the map that you get with it. And again, it's not a huge map, but it gets the job done. And the scenarios will direct you to which quadrant of this map that you would be playing in. And I like I said, I haven't read all the scenarios. I don't know if there's actually a scenario that would cover the entire map. There probably is. I don't know why you couldn't do that on your own. But here's 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. So a scenario might tell you, for instance, to play quadrant 1. So you could fold the map like that, or you could find a book or an object to call out that map that you're playing, if you would like. So again, just wanted to show you this. This game is not meant to be a replacement for lock and loads tactical games. It's not meant for that level of detail. So this is what you get. This is your counter sheet, the rule book, and this map. It's what is this game for? I see this as being a game that you would want to have a portable game. You'd want to take this game. You're going on a trip. You fold this up. This all fits into this little rule book here, and your counters. Of course, you probably have those cut, but you can put those in a little baggie, and it's just a thin little book and manual and a map that you could take with you on the road to go. So I'm going to. That's basically the unbagging, if you will, and I'm going to set up a scenario, one of the early scenarios. I'll just use a couple of rifle units. I'll show you the combat mechanics, how movement works, and what the game plays like, and I will give some of my thoughts on overall what I think about this game and if I would recommend it. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. Okay, so what I've set up here is the second scenario in the rule book. So this is, if you can see this, this is Brush Patrol, August 19th. And basically what you're looking at is the scenario directs you to use quadrants 1 and 2, and it tells you that there are 6 rifle squads of Marines entering on the west side. It tells you to set up the Japanese. There's 3 Japanese rifle units. It tells you to set them up in quadrant 1, player's choice. So I just kind of randomly picked this area. So the goal of the scenarios, the Marines, of course, are on patrol. They're coming in this way. Japanese aren't really expecting anything. And so if you look at it's got your order of battle here. It tells you where to set up, like I said, and what the Americans and the Japanese order of battles are. Not sure it mentions it here, but the morale for all these units would be 5 in this scenario. And so, yeah, it says the Japanese can set up anywhere they want in quadrant 1. So to me, that's kind of odd because you do have the Marines are coming in on the west side. I would think you'd probably try to hold. You'd want to set up not too close to where they're coming in, but it is what it is. It works. So anyway, the Japanese, the goal of the Marines, of course, is to eliminate all the Japanese rifles. The Japanese rifle squads. Their goal is to get at least one of these units off the edge of the eastern edge of this map. So they're going to try to get one of these units off the edge of this map. And that's what the goal for each side is. So they do say there is solitaire rules with this system. I did take a quick look at it. Here it says solitaire. The Americans use fire and maneuver tactics. The Japanese use fighting withdrawal. So don't expect too much from the solitaire rules. So the solitaire, let's see if you can see this. This is the solitaire rule play section. And it's a little more than just a step above play each side your best ability. And it'll tell you, so we saw that it told us that the Americans would use fire and maneuver tactics. So if you look here, it'll tell you the fire and maneuver tactics is aggressor engages the defender with suppressive fire. When defending units are pinned, the aggressor will flank or advance to destroy the enemy in close combat. So basically, it's what you read in the scenario. You're trying to eliminate these Japanese soldiers. Of course, you're going to try to get in there and do that as quick as you can. This just kind of reinforces it and tells you, how they should be playing. And for the Japanese, it mentioned, where did it go? Japanese use fighting withdrawal. So remember, they're trying to exit the eastern side of this map. And so if you look at fighting withdrawal, in the rulebook it says the defender will detach a portion of his force to fire on attacking units while the main body of his forces evacuates. So here, you're probably going to have, what that would mean is, if you're playing a solitaire scenario, according to what's indicated here, you'd probably have one of these units to stand put here and fire at the incoming Marines while these other 2 units try to skedaddle off the map on the east side over here. So solitaire, it's nice that they thought about solitaire, but it's not nothing really in depth here as far as solitaire play goes. It really is, read the scenario and play each side to the best of your ability, which I tend to do that anyway in games like this. So I'm not going to play this entire scenario. I'm just going to basically show you how movement and combat work. And in fact, I have some questions about this scenario, and I've actually tried to play this once, and it just there's some. I do suffer from rules analysis paralysis, so that may be part of it. But there's some things about the map and the scenario I did not quite understand. So I'll get to that a little bit later. But so basically, to show you how this would work, and if you look in the beginning, it tells you the game sequence. Players alternate turns. In his turn, a player moves his units one at a time. He must complete one unit's movements before going to the next. So in a unit's turn, each unit may move or fire or pass. So it's like it's telling you that a unit can move or fire. A unit cannot both move and fire in the same turn. And that kind of led to some of the questions I had about this scenario. And of course, victory. It's tells you here that players alternate turns until one side wins. Of course, the victory conditions are specific to whatever battle you're fighting. So going back to this battle. Well, let me just show you how it works, and I'll go through some of my thoughts and some of the problems I encountered with this. But basically, so we'll say the Americans will move first because and according to the rules in this scenario, the Japanese cannot move until, it says, Japanese set up anywhere they want. They cannot move until adjacent to American forces. So they're stuck here until there's an American force next to them. And it says that, also says in the American section that the Americans fire first. So these guys can't even fire until the Americans fire. So way this works is if you look at the terrain reference chart here. So jungle is 2 movement points to enter. It will provide 1+1 cover. And so when you roll your, in the case of the Japanese, if they're rolling for defense here, they would add 1 to their highest die roll. But so jungle takes 2 movement points to enter. And if you look at, I'm going to grab one of these counters here. So if you look at the movement, and let's see if I can get this on camera. The movement cost is here up in the, whoops, I can't, where did my hand go? It's right. It's right there. So that movement cost is in the upper right hand corner. So you can tell it's a 4 for this Marine Rifle Squad. So movement is 4. The attack of that rifle squad is 2. The defense is 2, and the range, the fire range is 6. That's what those numbers mean. So I'm gonna put him back down there. So okay, so we're moving through jungle, and you move like the rules state, you move them one at a time. So if we were playing this, we would start up at the top and say, well, let's move this rifle unit. He can move 4, so it's 2 to enter this jungle space plus another 2 to get to here. So we would move him 2 spaces. And remember, it's either move or fire, not both. And so, this rifle, none of these rifle units could hit these Japanese. Well, they can't see them. Line of sight does not extend past the adjacent jungle hex, because that's the way jungle works. It's if there were a Japanese unit, say in front of this rifle squad, he could be able to fire into there because he would be able to see him. If there were a Japanese unit here, this squad could see him, but not this one. He couldn't fire through this jungle hex into this jungle hex. So then we would continue on. We would move, this rifle squad would move 2, and then this rifle squad would move 2. So that would be their first turn. That's all they could do, because they can't see anything. They're just kind of trudging through the jungle here. And of course the Japanese here would have to pass because they can't move until they're adjacent to those units. So they would pass. And then the Americans would move again. So you would come up here, you would move, this Marine Corps unit would move up 2. This unit would move up 2, and then this unit would move up 2. And again, now that they can actually see these Japanese units, but they've already moved, and so they can't fire. And then that would end the Marines' turn. Then it would go back to the Japanese. And so the Japanese, and if you're playing with the solitaire rules, of course it says a majority of the units are going to try to withdraw while a unit stays and fights. Now, if I were doing this, if I were going to play the scenario all the way through, I'd probably just have one unit. I'd probably have one unit withdraw and try to stop these Marines with these other two units. So now that they're adjacent, they can move. So what I would probably do is move this, and of course their movement factors are also 4, so they can move 1, 2 to the jungle, 3, 4. So he could move to here, and he would be trying to work his way out off the map to alert the other Japanese forces that there are Americans headed this way. And so now this unit is in place. He can fire, as is this unit. So let's just say, let's have this Japanese unit. He can roll 1d6. That's what the 1 signifies at the American unit. And there's 2 units in here. So their defense factors are 2, plus they'll get a 1 to their highest roll for their defensive fire. So they are stacked units, and I think, let's take a quick look at the rules here. So if you're attacking stacked targets, multiple infantry units in the same hex may be fired upon individually or grouped. If grouped, then you use their cumulative survivability rating. So what we'll do here is, so we'll have, we're going to give the Japanese, they'll get 1d6 to fire at this Marine stack. There's they're both 2-2, or 2 defensive fire. So what that would mean is they would get 2 dice, plus they're going to get, let's see if I got another die I can use here. So they're going to use, they would get to use 4 d6s to defend with, because remember there's 2 of these units here, and their defense factors are 2. So what we would say is the Japanese would roll their attack, and they rolled a 6, so that's good. And the Marines would roll their 4 dice, so they rolled low. That's bad. So, in this case, the Japanese 6 would beat the highest defensive factor here. Now the highest number here is a 4, so that would actually be a 5 because they are in jungle. So it's a 6 versus a 5. And so it's, you look at your resolution, what happens. So if you're firing, if the attacker's highest die beats the target's highest die, the target is pinned. So to kill, it would be if the attacker's 2 highest dice both beat the targets, then the target would be destroyed. Well, here you only have 1. So what that would mean is that would pin, and you would flip these upside down to show that these units are pinned, and they will have to rally to get back into the action. And then we would come down to this one's already moved, and so we have now this one. And so he would fire. He's going to fire at this stack. So we'll put a little marker on here to signify that he's firing at that stack. It's the same thing. He's going to fire. He's going to roll 1d6, and it went off the chart, but he rolled a 2. That's not very good. And so the Marines will all roll. And they roll a 5 plus, 1 for the cover is 6. So you check your, you check what the resolution is, and it says here that, well, where did it go? It's basically a miss. There's no effect. So this stack would stay like it is. And so now he's fired, and he's moved. So that would be the Japanese turn, and then it would go back to the Marines. So now this stack is, can't do anything. So you can't rally. It says in the rule book that at the end of a player's turn, the player rolls 1 die for each pinned unit. So if the result is the player's morale or less, then it's turned right side up and rallies. So remember I said that 5 is the morale number for both sides really in this game, or this scenario. So since he's still pinned, he can't do anything. So now this stack of Marines is going to fire at this unit. And so, and I'm thinking because, well, I'm not going to do it. I was going to say probably what I would have this stack do. If I'm going to play this to the end, this stack I would just have move to try to follow this. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's just say this stack's going to move. And the reason I hestate, I'm going to leave him here. And let me tell you why. Because if this stack moved into here, then the Japanese force would get to fire on that stack because he's moving, and you can attack a target more than once if it's moving. So if this Marine unit moved here, this squad would be able to fire on him, and if he moved again here, this squad would fire again. So that's kind of an interesting rule. I think I like that. It's kind of like tracking fire. So you can't just blow past these units. You're going to take some fire trying to get around. But so I'm just going to leave them there for now. Like I said, I'm not going to play the entire scenario. So let's go back to this Marine stack. So they're firing. They're going to be firing 4d6 because their attack is also 4. There's 2 of them, and they're going to fire. And they roll a 5, 2 5s actually, and then the Japanese unit would roll. And he rolled a 6 plus 1 is actually 7, so no effect there. So he would beat that. So he survived. Amazing, actually. And then following through, the next stack would also shoot at that unit. There's a 6 and a 5. The Japanese would defend. And actually, I rolled that last one wrong. He should get 2. He survived, of course, which is good. But the 2 is he gets 2 defense, not 1. So that was my mistake. So the highest one gets a +1 because he's in jungle, so it's a 7. So barely beat him. Look at the rolls there. So there's a 6 for the Marines, and a 6 plus 1 is a 7. No effect. And so that would be the Marines' turn. At the end of their turn, of course, this unit could attempt to rally, so it would just be a d6 roll. He's trying to get 5 or less. Got a 3, so he would rally at the end of that turn. Then it goes back to the Japanese. And, of course, this guy would continue to try to run away and that. So that's just real quick. I didn't want to play an entire scenario. I just kind of wanted to show you how combat works. I do like the way combat works. I like having these attack and defense die rolls, if you will. So the 2d6s versus 2d6s, and taking into account the cover. There is line of sight. There's elevations. You can see these are elevation markers on this map. I do like that. I do like the combat. I like the way that works a lot. So overall thoughts on this game. I think there's a good game here. I think it needs a little bit of work, though. And so what I mean by that is I think there should be probably an errata or something published to go along with this set of rules. I think they're good rules, but what I don't like is, and this scenario was a good example, there's some, I think there's some contradiction here, and maybe not contradiction is the right word. Let's start off with the map, though. So if you look at this scenario description, and I'm going to take the counters off for a second here so we can look at the map. So it tells you, let's see, can we see this? So, okay, map. It tells you order of battle of the map. Use the top half of the board, or quadrants 1 and 2. So this is the top half of the board, quadrants 1 and 2. That's great. I like that. And then it says the beach is in play and provides a natural boundary. B is north, the Americans are the aggressors. So the beach is in play. I'm not exactly sure what that means. So I'm assuming that this is the beach, this line here. I don't really know. And it's part of my problem. These are jungle hexes, and so this is a jungle hex to me. Yeah, there's a little bit of water up here, but from my experience with war games, this is mostly a jungle hex, and I can see where you could also consider this a beach hex. But if we turn back here to the terrain. So this is the terrain effects chart. So you have open terrain, trail of road, jungle, riverside hex, and pennies used to entrench. Of course, if I were going to entrench, I would use one of my handy dandy red markers. But you could use a penny to show that a unit is entrenched. And then there's these elevation markers. So what's missing? Well, there's no beach. So I don't know if that means, and this is my problem. It says the beach. What was the exact wording? The beach is in play. So does that mean that if you have these Marines or even these Japanese units, and the beach is in play, does that mean that the unit can move, that it's not restricted to the 2 modifier for moving into jungle? Would it be considered an open terrain? Is it beach? So could this Japanese force with his movement factor of 4, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4 because it's jungle, could he go 1, 2, 3, 4 because he's going along the beach? I don't know. It's not clear about that. That's kind of confusing. And while we're still talking about the map, another example of that is, well, in this scenario, staying with this scenario before I get too far outside of it. Let's go back and look at this scenario to make sure I'm not misquoting anything here. So it says that in the order of battle setup, the Americans start out on the west side of the map, which is up here, traveling along the road towards the east. Well, there's no road. So if you go back into the terrain, it shows you a trail or a road is a black line, basically. And if you look at this entire map, there's no roads. The only thing I can see that might be a road is there's this pink line that runs along this. This is, I think this is elevated. Yeah, it is. Okay, so here's the elevation lines. Elevation lines are here. You can see those are, they're mentioned here. And it's shown, here's the elevation. There's 25, 50, 75, up to 80. So this is a hill or a mountainous region. And so this pink line, it's either a trail or a road, I think. Again, if you look at the terrain chart, trail or roads are black. This thing's pink. So that's kind of disappointing. And like I said, in this scenario, it specifies that the Americans are moving along a road in this quadrant. And if you look at this quadrant, which is just this section, the only thing in there is an elevation line. This is an elevation line. This is not a road. So that's confusing to me. So, and I think it actually affects this scenario, because if there were actually a road in here and, you had these units, let's say the Japanese were kind of about where I had them. If you had a road that the Marines are coming down, and instead of being restricted to 1, 2, 3, 4, they could move along the road, which was a movement factor of, it's a half. So, they could move 8 spaces along that road. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If there were a road there, they could get halfway across the map, really. And that would also aid the Japanese. Like, if there were a road coming along this way, then, they would be able to move a lot faster to get away from the American forces. So there's that. There's this. This is a tidal pool, and it's used in, it's called Alligator Creek. It says another scenario here says Alligator Creek is in play, and this is Alligator Creek. Well, again, Alligator Creek is in play. What does that mean? No idea. So I have no idea what that even refers to. And honestly, this Alligator Creek, this tidal pool, is in play in the first scenario, or the scenario that we just kind of walked you through a little bit. But it doesn't mention what does that mean? What does it mean that it's in play? So can this Japanese unit cross this tidal pool on foot, or does it mean that he has to come around because it's just too deep and he can't get across it? I don't know. So there's that. There's a lot of clarifications I think that need to be made here. And so even with the scenario itself, as far as you have these units come in, it says the Americans must fire first. The Japanese can't move until there's an adjacent unit to it. But it's kind of confusing, because if this unit came in and then you switch to the Japanese turn, he could certainly fire, but now he can move. So he can start moving away from this American unit. And it looks to me like there would just be a big chase across the map. So there needs to be more clarification there, I think. Let's see, what else? Another thing I didn't really much care for, and I realized that you are limited here. This was not an expensive game. It was $12.95, which is a good price point, frankly. But so in the rule book, there's a lot of talk about a lot of examples. If you look at the examples, line of sight, good examples. The examples in this book are outstanding. Clear terrain here. Fire here. So you can see this unit can fire all the way across this river hex. around these jungles and hit this unit. And here's again that road that does not exist here, but here's a road where it shows they can see down the road, they can see into this first line of jungle. So that this is all good. But look at these examples, totally clear, lots of clear terrain, a river, lots of clear terrain, a river. That's the same picture, I suppose. All those are, but look at the map. It's all jungle. There's no clear anywhere, and that's disappointing because anywhere that you're going to have opposing units, they will never be able to see each other. They're not going to see until they're up on them. You're not going to know the unit's even there. So there needs to be more clear hexes or different types of terrain. Now there are some scenarios where you will have. I'm not going to use a penny, but let's say I had an entrenchment here. There are some scenarios that will tell you, okay, if you have an entrenchment, then these hexes south of it will be clear, and that's okay. I understand. That helps a little bit. So then you say, okay, well, these hexes are clear, so if he's going to come in this way, he's got clear hex here. But you have to remember that. So that's kind of hard to do. So but if you look at this map, I really wish they had provided more variety in the terrain. You see in the example the river hex. They mention the river hex in the terrain chart, but there's no rivers on this map. No rivers, and like I said, with the exception of maybe this pink line, no roads. And the only clear terrain I can see really is the mountain. And once you're outside that mountain, it's just jungle. So really makes it hard for. And of course, you can argue that in the Pacific, and perhaps even specific to Guadalcanal, that the jungle fighting was just that. It was you didn't have a whole lot of open hexes. You had dense jungle, and so you a lot of times wouldn't know there was somebody there until you were up on them. And okay, I get that, and that's good, but I think you need some more open terrain just to get variety of play in. You could have put maybe down here in quadrant 4 some open terrain or a river. You mentioned rivers. Maybe there'll be some expansions to this, and if you read the rule book, they do indicate that they do provide you with like armored units, but no rules concerning armored units, because I think it's their intent to come out with maybe some more of these games, which I hope they do. Like I said, I think there's a system here. I think there's a fun game in here, but it does need a wee bit of work. And another thing that I didn't really much care for was the color of this terrain. So I think this is open terrain. If you look again, going back to our see if I can get them both on here at the same time. Back to our terrain chart. See, that open is nice and green, but this is kind of a yellowish color, green and yellowish, and it's not listed anywhere in here. But like I said, looking at this, we know this is higher elevation, so this has got to be a hill, and there's no vegetation on it. So if you had a unit here and here, or even here, that's clear terrain. This unit would be able to hit this unit, across. His range is 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he could hit all the way back here. That's clear terrain. But the colors. So I wish they had gone with a different background color, because it really makes it hard to see the Marines. They really blend in to the background. It's a minor nitpick, but if you look at that, well, he's right there. It's kind of hard to see him. Another thing that might have been nice to do, and again, I know I guess they're trying to keep costs down, but it would have been nice if this map had been double-sided. You could have got another, maybe a couple more scenarios on the back of that thing. I don't know. That might have been nice to see. Or maybe another approach would have been to have more of a blank map and provide another counter sheet, but for terrain, so you could put jungle down, kind of like Command and Colors does with some water and some jungle and things. Some other things I saw that I didn't quite understand. I'm going to grab another unit here. Let's grab a mortar. So this mortar unit, if you look up in the range, there's an asterisk. And for the life of me, and it's with the machine gun too, so we'll show you the machine gun marker here. So the machine gun marker, the range has an asterisk. So I couldn't for the life of me find anywhere in this rule book what that meant. What does an asterisk mean for range? I don't know. I don't know. So, if you have a mortar here, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, there's probably going to be all line of sight issues again because you're just stuck in the jungle. But, so I don't know if that asterisk means that this mortar can hit anywhere on the map. Maybe that's what it means. I'm not really sure. So that's kind of confusing. What else? I think that's basically the major problems I encountered. Would like to see some more clarification in the scenarios about if there's scenarios where they rules that trump the regular rules, highlight those, like the fact that the Japanese can't fire till the Americans are adjacent. That's good. Point that kind of stuff out. So I think we're going to end it there. I think we'll stop there. That is Guadalcanal, a combat boots game. I recommend this game. Honestly, I know I called out a lot of issues I had with this, but as far as what the game is trying to accomplish, and I think what they're trying to accomplish here is you have a tactical game that you can just throw down on the table and knock out within 30 minutes to an hour. And I think there's a void for that type of game in the market. You can't set up a one of the well-known tactical games. You couldn't put down Combat Commander Pacific and knock it out in 30 minutes unless you're really bad. I suppose you could. But it's just a small, compact little game. You could take this on a trip. If you're going somewhere, you grab this, you throw it in your bag. It's a tiny game, takes up a very small footprint. You could take this to work. You could play this against one of your friends on lunch break. It's that quick to play, I believe. You're watching TV. You're watching a football game. Well, when we get back to watching football games, you could throw this on the table while you're watching the game and play a little battle. Doesn't take too much attention to figure out what's going on. Not a lot of rules. Just have it kind of in the background. Just a quick, fast diversion type thing. And another idea is you could buy something. It's tiny. It comes in a little. Let's see if I can find that Ziploc bag. It comes in a little Ziploc bag. You could stuff this inside a birthday card and send it to one of your wargaming friends. I mean, it'd make a neat little gift for somebody. I think it's not that expensive, and it's small. The other thing is you could do is this would be a good introduction to get somebody into wargaming. Very rules light. All the components are there. You have your counters. You have it's if you're showing somebody introducing somebody to a war game, most of the elements are here. Line of sight, elevations, terrain. It's counter information. It's a very good introductory war game. So yeah, I do recommend this game, and it would be very easy to create your own maps for this. So you could half of this map is basically just a single sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So you could certainly print out your own maps and come up with your own scenarios. It would be very easy to do so. So yeah, I do recommend this if you're looking for one of those things that is just described. Introductory game. You want a quick game you can take anywhere. Absolutely, I think this would work. I think I hope they continue to work on this series and improve it and maybe address some of the issues I pointed out here. But this is the first one, copyright 2020. We'll see. I can see actually setting this up and playing the scenarios. I think it'd be fun. So that's it. Just want to give you guys a quick look at this. Something new, something different, and I will keep an eye out for these types of things in the future. Thank you for watching.